Platt attaching half to Ford. Carry Hyde. Outward curve. And then drag down. John Cogger. Emmanuel McCrum this week has said we'd like to see Oldham go through the season unbeaten, or at least in the league. John Fieldhouse. Out to Paul Lord. And Lord's in at the corner. McAllister onto Casey. Casey one-handed back to Cogger. Onto Newton. Taken by Robinson to Croston. Croston still dancing. Onto Russell. Russell out to Henderson. What a fine try. Ball going through innumerable pairs of Oldham hands. And that 6 tackles could well be it. Good long kick out from Smith. Taken by Steve Robinson. Robinson inside. Oh, sorry, outside, inside. Tackle just inside the 25. Cogger to Newton. Newton away from 2 or 3. Newton still going. Fine run from Keith Newton. Andy Ruane. Richard Russell. Leo Casey checks. And gets the ball out. And Richard Russell's in for his first try for Oldham, crowning his debut in the league. With a try right on, taken by Riddleston and a few others. Fine break. That's the best we've seen so far of Richard Russell in an Oldham shirt. Cogger. Back to McAllister. McAllister. Platt. And Platt's in for a try. Yet again. John Cogger going from acting half-back. Linking to Charlie McAllister. Help from Milner puts him down. Cogger pots to the post and he's in. That incredible ability John Cogger's got of scoring tries. He looked to be in Colin Whitfield's grasp, but he wasn't. Last tackle coming up, quickly plays the ball. Ruane, Mike Ford. And that'll be play on again. Early ball to Steve Robinson. Robinson coming inside, and Robinson in for the opening try of the game. With about 12 minutes showing on the clock. Fine long pass out to Steve Robinson. Giving him just enough room. If he'd have perhaps gone for the corner, he'd have probably taken the touch flag with him. Checked inside. Cooper kicks along the ground for himself. Devine gets there first. Offloads, but Platt picks up in space. Dummies to Richard Irvine. But Richard Irvine's tackled, even though he's not got the ball. Platt quickly on with it. Well picked up by Paul Lord. Loose pass, but could have gone anywhere. Ruane inside to Leo Casey. Casey still going. Leo Casey on to Mike Ford, and Mike Ford's in at the post. The Leo Casey Mike Ford combination working in the opposite direction to usual. Usually it's Leo Blee as well. Brett Clark, Keith Newton. Superb one-handed pass to Duncan Platt, and Platt's in. This is already reaching unbelievable staging as Oldham, after just 2 minutes of his second half, extend the lead. Recess play on. Cave pursued, ankle tap by Richard Irvine, and the ball ends up in Paul Lord's hands. Newton, Ford, Brett Clark, Duncan Platt screaming up outside him. Even in the tackle, Brett Clark still dummying. Fieldhouse from acting half-back. 2 yards closer to the Saints line. Leo Casey lining up to come blind. Cogger, and Cogger's in. A gap superbly opened up by Andy Ruane, attacking half-back. Picking the ball up, stuttering a few yards to his right and putting Cogger inside him. So John Cogger, Duncan Platt's penalty kick takes Oldham up to about 10 yards short of the Saints line. Ruane to Fieldhouse, Fieldhouse for the line. Ruane directing traffic, ready attacking half-back. John Fairbank with his first touch. Taken by both Saints props. Cosgrove, Evans, Groves joins in. Sean Allen twists and gets the ball down. And Paul Groves hits John Fieldhouse after the try's been scored. Caught by Tony Kay. Ball goes backwards 2 or 3 times. Ruane to Irving, who plays soccer with it. Irving bounces about. Finally taken down. I think that's the best single ball John Fieldhouse has given since he arrived at Oldham. Cogger from action half-back. Cogger. That's 5th tackle. Saints player down. Suffering from cramp. Long ball out to Mike Ford. Mike Ford dances. Puts Keith Newton into a gap. And Keith Newton's over. Oldham stretching the lead. Oldham's ball. Long pass to Gary Hyde. Richard Irving coming round him, straightens up. Just can't keep his feet on the tightness of the straighten up. John Cogger. Out to Duncan Platt. And Paul Lord's in. And Gary Hyde says, get to them posts. And he gets to within 10-12 yards of them. And the opening try of the match comes in from Paul Lord after 29 minutes. Putting Oldham to be. Cogger from action half-back. Brett Clark. And it's a try. The ever reliable Steve Hampson makes a mess of it. Oldham player stood offside in the backs according to the touch judge. Duncan Platt. Back to Brett Clark. Nowhere really to go then. Platt attacking half-back. Finds Andy Ruane. Keith Newton going straight through the Wigan defence. And through Steve Hampson. And he's over. Slid over under his own momentum, says referee Whitfield. Been playing 14 minutes, and who can believe it? Oldham have scored a second try. Dean Bell standing a bit short of the 5 yards he should be. Oldham's head and ball. Clark away. Links to Irving. Irving away from Blake. Goodway covering. Good tackle from Goodway. Fine run from Irving. Michael Ford. Just unable to get it out to Steve Robinson as Henderson Gill lies hurt on the floor and the Oldham roar goes up. Clark. John Cogger. John Fieldhouse in a bit of space. Fieldhouse onto Richard Russell. Russell to Mike Ford. And Mike Ford's in. 30 minutes played. And Oldham retake the lead with a Mike Ford try. Come on, get up! Need a ball quicker. Brett Clark. John Fieldhouse long pass to Richard Russell. And Richard Russell's in. Richard Russell in for the first try after 6 minutes play. Winger coming in. Well tackled by Fairbank. Kelly running round, but Brett Clark intercepts, and Brett Clark's in for his first try for Oldham. A run round move involving Richard Irvins, in fact. Steve Robinson attacked in half-back. And he breaks through to Steve Robinson. Not the fastest of wingers, but just short. John Fieldhouse throws a loosish pass out. Gary Hyde feeds Sean Allen. Allen out to Kevin Meadows, and Meadows is in at the corner. 38 minutes gone. Pull down just inside the touchline. McAllister, Clark weaves. John Fairbank keeps his head. Offloads well to Allen. Allen to Kevin Meadows. And Meadows is in at the corner. John Fairbank again. Very instrumental on what's going off. Oldham. Keith Newton not too happy with it. Tap to Neil Clawson. And Neil Clawson's in. I'm not sure quite who was watching that penalty. After 25 minutes. Line of defence. And that's fifth tackle already. Clark chips. Bounces off a few. Picks up and he's in. 28 minutes of the second half gone. Fine break. Andy Ruane acting half-back. Feeds Ian Bates. Dummies to Neil Flanagan. Ruane queuing up. Charlie McAllister out to Richard Irvin, and Richard Irvin's in at the corner. Keith Newton suffering from Mick Scott's obstruction. Mike Ford chips. Paul Lord goes through the middle. Let's see what the referee's given. He has indeed given a try. The Australian referee in habit of waiting and looking at touch judges. Cosman loses his feet. Ruane, Mike Ford, dummies to John Fairbank. Now gives it John Fairbank. Fairbank for the corner. Plays it to himself, and that's a try. No marker. John Fairbank's quick reactions. Plays it to himself. Referee John Fieldhouse. Good pass out to Paul Round. Round dances round one. Inside to John Cogger, who hangs on. And John Cogger's in for the opening try of the game. After 21 minutes. I don't think the referee could see that. Allen checks back inside. Gets the ball out well in the tackle to Gary Hyde. And Gary Hyde's in. Fine piece of individual. Mike Ford. Inside pass and a good one to Richard Russell. Back to John Fieldhouse. And Fieldhouse is in under the post for his second try of the season. Brett Clark. Change of direction to John Fieldhouse. Andy Ruane. John Cogger. And that's fifth tackle. Andy Ruane, Mike Ford, John Fieldhouse, Kevin Meadows, and Meadows is in. All so simple in the end. Something like fitness. Oldham 20, Carlisle 10. 15 minutes left to play. Vickers kicks off long. Charlie McAllister waits, plays to off his legs in goal area, picks up, goes across field, knocked down by Heppy with help from Pinner. Ruane feeds Robinson in off his wing, gets under one, makes good yardage. Ruane, Cogger, John Fairbank taking the ball, running on to Kevin Meadows. Meadows still going. Kevin Meadows for the line. Pull down just short. Richard Irvin John Fairbank reaches out a long arm, uses his strength to go in. Nearly played it, did pull around, now worried about his other leg. Loose pass picked up by Brett Clark. Kevin Meadows straight out to Richard Irving, back to Brett Clark. It's like basketball. Kevin Meadows. We've got about 3 minutes left to play. John Cogger. Fine pass to Brett Clark. John Fieldhouse. Fine pass from John Cogger to Brett Clark, and Clark doing the right thing with Fieldhouse inside him. Pulled down by desperately covering McGowan. Quick play. Ruane for the line. And he's in. Andy Ruane's first try of the season. The man watch obviously doesn't agree with the timekeepers. Forward from acting half-back brings Charlie McAllister inside. McAllister through one. Links to Tommy Martin. And Tommy Martin's going to score into the post on his debut for Oldham. Fine play from Mike Ford to Charlie McAllister. McAllister drew the last line of defence and who finds Andy Ruane and then gets it back from him. Fine play from Oldham there. Fine intelligent play. John Fairbank keeping the ball alive. Mike Ford to Charlie McAllister, brushes one off. He's tripped up in the fairest possible way. Ruane looking for a runner. Finds Sean Allen. Kevin Meadows coming inside. And Meadows races away from the pack to score 5 yards to the right-hand side of the post. Kevin Meadows with his 4th try of the season. Ford. Allen. John Fieldhouse. Richard Irving. I'm not quite sure where Charlie McAllister's gone. Irving attempts to run him down the touchline and does. Story comes over, but Irving's in for a fine try. Fine link centre field from Sean Allen. John Fieldhouse. Down by Graham Idle. Ford. Casey into a gap. Casey for the line. And Casey's in for a try. Fine pass from Mike Ford. Held it back slightly. A gap open for Leo Casey. Well to get the ball away. Finally finds John Fairbank running. One-handed to Brett Clark. On to Paul Lord, and Lord's in. The try that really came out of nothing. A lot of stationary play. Hermerson tackled by Fairbank. Fieldhouse. Keith Rain running wide into Leo Casey. Andy Ruane, John Cogger join in. Doncaster winger Mark Roach to his feet, limping back to his wing. Pickerel, Vincent to Sygrove. Gets the ball away. And Gary Hyde. And that's a try. Will look to be a slight pull back by Gary Hyde. And Doncaster player, 40 minutes are up. The hooter can come at any second. Long pass of Mike Ford finds Brett Clark. Paul Lord with the whole of the Doncaster team pursuing him. Kicks back. It'll be interesting to see what's given. And it's a penalty to Oldham, I think, down in the far corner. Full time's up. Time is up. The hooter hasn't gone. Gary Hyde says, I'll kick at goal. But he hasn't got chance to. Lord. Hyde. Fieldhouse. And John Fairbank must be in. He is. Fairbank's in. 41 minutes showing on my watch. And Oldham have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Doncaster crowd unbelievable. The Oldham directors look remarkably happy, or is it relief? And that's in John Fairbank's hands. Charlie McAllister, Brett Clark. Dummies one way and races through for a fine individual try. We've had to wait 36 minutes in this first half for Oldham to open their account. Not able to find a link. 40 minutes up on my watch. Brett Clark, Gary Hyde, and Hyde's in for a try. Oldham finally woken up in this first half. 40 minutes showing on the clock. Gary McAllister's speed and power in the centre, ball out very quickly. Mike Ford pursued by Moses. Cogger, Clark, McAllister. McAllister out to one. On to Richard Russell. Richard Russell finds Richard Irving with a superb pass. Russell's ball handling skills being shown to the full there. As Richard Irving receives treatment back in his own half, Mike Ford kicks again. And it's a race for the ball. And he's in, is Michael. Mike Ford in for his 4th try of the season. As Richard Irving yards short. Mike Ford. Charlie McAllister will never stop Charlie at that range. And suddenly in the space of 3-4 minutes, Oldham have come with 3 tries to come from 10-20. Knocked down on 5th tackle by Paul Ocassini. Field out attacking halfback. Hyde checks for the post. Andy Ruane one-handed. Ruane opens a gap to put Kevin Meadows in. And this is the sort of rugby that the Oldham fans had come to see today. Finally dumped by Collis. Fieldhouse. Gary Hyde. On to John Cogger. Ford. Back to Andy Ruane. And Andy Ruane's in for only his 2nd try of the season. Oldham putting together collection of passes there. After tries, I don't suppose we've had time for that many. Scrum goes down. Paul Lord with a run for the corner, and he's in at that. Fine move off the scrum. John Cogger picked up, fed Mike Ford. Gave Paul Lord half a yard down the touchline. And he'd gone from 70 yards. There was nobody on the Keighley team with anything like the pace to catch him. Oldham, the Keighley centres. Ruane switches back inside to Casey. Casey accelerates. Feeds Mike Ford. Ford back to Casey. Casey for the posts. Backs to Richard Russell, and Russell's in. Russell goes to the post, puts it down 10 yards to the left of the post for his own 2nd try of the game to make the score Oldham 48. Keighley 28. Attack of the game. Sean Allen unable to get in from acting halfback. Clark. Fieldhouse. Fieldhouse back to Cogger, and he's opened a gap, and Cogger's in. 12 minutes play. John Cogger opens Oldham's account with his cell from his wing. Mike Ford holds back a pass for Charlie McAllister. McAllister out to one. On to Steve Robinson. Back to Sean Allen. That's a fine try. Look for a moment as though Charlie McAllister had perhaps took a wrong option, but it's us up here who were wrong. And Ruane will burrow in from action half-back. Indeed he does. Fine play from Paul Lord, setting up position. Ford to John Fieldhouse, through a gap up to the 25. Good long pass. John Cogger from action half-back. Back to Andy Ruane. Ruane, and Ruane strides in. Looked like there is no right. Ford, Clark. Clark spots a gap. Back to Mike Ford. And Mike Ford's in for a try. Fine play, especially from Brett Clark. Richard Russell joined. Ford. Trevor Croston runs strongly while he's been on and continues to do so. Now, can John Fieldhouse go from there? No, but Brett Clark surely can. Fine break from Trevor Croston. Link inside to John Fieldhouse. Clark. Long ball taken by Fieldhouse. Brings Charlie McAllister inside him. McAllister accelerates. Knocks Hussain off. Knocks a couple more off. And Charlie McAllister's in for a fine try. Using his weight, power and speed. That one. Ruane. Clark. Paul Lord in space. And he's run Sigrove. And Paul Lord's in for a good try. Paul Lord with his tackle. Ruane chips for the far side. And Kevin Meadows is in. Superb kick from Andy Ruane. Position set up. First of all by Cogger from acting halfback. And he breaks through and goes for the line inside to Andy Ruane. Ruane's in. Slack tackling really on John Cogger as he went between two. Andy Ruane, Mike Ford chips. Kicks again. And let's see what the decision is. The crowd certainly think it's a try. And so does the referee, which doesn't keep down. But John Fairbank winds up his one good leg. Oldham stand deep with a lot of forwards massing. Sean Allen. John Fairbank limps out the way. Mike Ford, Brett Clark. Brett Clark dummies his way through and checks back for the post. Superb play from Brett Clark. The slightest of dummies open the gap again. He will leave the one that's on Mick Bardsley. Oldham in the Bramley 25. Neil Clawson with the second drive. Oldham look to be setting something up. Mike Ford. The Charlie McAllister. McAllister gets a ball out to Steve Robinson, and Steve Robinson's in. I'm not quite sure how he got that ball away. Charlie McAllister makes a yard or two. The crowd begins to sound a little frustrated. It's Charlie McAllister out to one. On superb pass on to John Cogger. And Cogger's in for a try. Charlie McAllister coming from blind to open. Bounced off one or two. And Keith Atkinson hasn't got up from that yet, and neither is his tackler. Charlie McAllister cross kicks. Paul Lord takes. And Lord's in. Fine cross kick, I'm pretty sure, from Charlie McAllister. Keith Atkinson. And since he's had all these operations, has worked hard on weights. John Cogger. Cogger for the line. And is he in and out? Yes, he is. John Cogger's second try of the game. Looks like Neil Clawson on the drive. Nobody else is there. Mick Bardsley. Mike Ford, Brett Clark. Back to Mike Ford. Puts Duncan Platt into a huge gap. Platt. Superb ball for Michael Ford. Duncan Platt says, we're out here, lads, let's have the ball. Brett Clark turns it back inside to Neil Clawson. And Neil Clawson's in. And obviously an injury there by the referee's reaction. Thanks to, I think it's Andy Ruane's reactions. Brett Clark, Keith Atkinson. Keeps going. Finally Bramley ripped the ball out. Brett Clark kicks on and picks up. And Brett Clark's in. Fine reactions from Brett Clark. Oldham in no hurry to get on with things. Brett Clark finally taken by Fraser. The Oldham backline stands what we might call semi-deep. McAllister to Trevor Croston, and Trevor Croston's in for his first try of the season. All so simple. Heel against the head. Brett Clark, early ball to Charlie McAllister. McAllister making as many yards backwards as he did forward. John Cogger for the line, and he's in. A good roll since he came on. Ford, Clark links on well to Platt, onto Mike Ford, to John Cogger, and Cogger's in under the post, surely. He is. And that's fifth tackle. Oldham have gone from one end of the field to the other in 5. Brett Clark, Mike Ford, long pass to Trevor Croston, a lot of gaps out there, and Trevor Croston's in. Fine use of 6 tackles from Oldham. Paul Lord taking Sean Fairbank on the drive. Not only on the drive, in for the try. Some very slack tackling from Saints there. He went finally put down just to the left-hand side of the post, about 12 yards out. Trevor Croston attaching half-back to Mike Ford. Brings Richard Russell inside him, and a cry forward from the Saints crowd. Referee Whitfield's not very interested. John Cogger goes again from acting half-back. The Oldham crowd reckon he's in, and so does referee Whitfield. Saints not a happy lot there. Ford to Charlie McAllister, who bursts through and feeds on to John Cogger, and halfway. Has he got the legs? Alan Hunt is just going to get him, or is he? No, he doesn't. It's a try. Oldham scored 2 in 2 minutes. John Cogger. Mike Ford. Richard Russell makes a few more yards. Ford chipping for Paul Lord, and Paul Lord's in.
Oldham attacking this Rochdale line. Ball to Mick Ford, drops it inside. Fieldhouse unloads it. Gary Hyde unloads it. Yes, it's a good try by Charlie McAllister. Well out by Gary Hyde, that. Gives a dummy. That's tackled. That's the ball out. Clark's got the ball out wide to Paul Lloyd. He cuts inside and goes over the line, scores a try.
Paul Mellor. Mike Ford up the tight side, inside to Keith Newton. Fine ball. Newton pushes off 1 or 2. Toppin's trying to measure him for the corner. Inside to Mike Ford. And Ford's in for the first try of the match after 23 minutes. First score from McAllister and Foy. Kick for Paul Lord. Is he there? He is. Downward pressure from Paul Lord. His 13th try of the season.
Tap
to Myler. Shields loses his helmet, so we can now see how beautiful he is. Or otherwise, Rapati stands there to peer. And Richard Russell. Is he going to make it? He is indeed. Russell's in for an interception try. Make no mistake from Russell. No. Newton at first man. Mike Ford uses Keith Atkinson as a foil. Not with too much Swinton force about. John Fieldhouse onto Keith Newton. Newton to John Cogger, and Cogger's in. And up with the ball in his hands. I'm not quite sure he's managed that one. John Cogger picks up, attempts to run everybody. Covered by Paul Toppin on the 25. Mike Ford going up the tight side. Kicks again for Paul Lord. And he's in again. They've certainly got this kick and run off to a fine art now of Mike Ford Paul Lord. Tied to Keith Newton. Cogger from acting half back for the line. And he's there, he's made the line. And that's John Cogger's 50. Look for another one before half time. As Warrener kicks off. Down to Charlie McAllister. Plays football with it, picks up. Sets off cross field. And breaks out. And Des Foy's in, there's no doubt about that. They're not going to catch him from there. Oldham 2 tries in 2 minutes. And that's Des Foy's first try since he came back from Newcastle. Sean Allen come from a long way to take that ball. Hit and spin. And that's another 10, that's 20 in 2 tackles. Ford coming round Clark. And straight ball to Keith Newton, who stands up long enough to get it to John Fieldhouse. Out to Duncan Platt. Sleight of hand to Brett Clark. And puts Des Foy in at the corner. Fine play from Keith Newton to John Fieldhouse. Fieldhouse kept it alive, but the pass Duncan Platt picked up. Slight Fieldhouse. Charlie McAllister. John Fairbank for the corner. And Fairbank's in at the corner. For his 5th try of the season. An appreciative round of applause from the Oldham crowd. Ford, Cogger, Des Foy for his hat-trick. Dummy run round. Out the back of his hand and taken by Richard Russell. Russell to Ford. Ford. And that puts Oldham into a 30 points to 2 lead. Charlie McAllister. And still gets the ball out. Mike Ford skips away. There's big gaps out there now. John Cogger. Dummies 1. And Cogger's going in himself. Cogger for his 16th try of the season. Charlie McAllister into the second row, a place where many people say he should be. Mike Ford waits and Oldham end up with another one. Clark. To Duncan Platt. To Des Foy. Early ball to Richard Irving. Back inside to Foy. And Foy's going for his 5th. And that's his 5th try of the match. I don't know when an Oldham player last scored 5 in a game. I don't think it's while I've been commentating. Finally pulled down by his opposite number, Fieldhouse. Ford. Kick through Brett Clark. And Brett Clark gets a hand to it. A variation on the kick that's brought Paul Lord tries recently. Des Foy. Skin receives treatment back in Oldham's half. Mike Ford takes. Sets off crossfield, links to Keith Atkinson with his first touch of a match. On a fine barnstorming run from Keith Atkinson. Takes him up 10 yards short of Huddersfield line. Ford to Newton, who's well tackled. Huddersfield player, I think it's Diskin again. And Sean Allen strides in from acting half-back. 5. John Fairbank willing as ever. Taken by his opposite number, Nelson. Wrestled in field, John Cogger. Taken by Nadiola. Sean Allen goes from acting half-back, straightens for the post. And gets to within about 5 yards. Fieldhouse, Ford. And superb pass to Keith Newton. Makes it all look so simple. So after about 29 minutes of his second half, I sort of see how quick Huddersfield get off. Fine break from Paul Lord. Duncan Platt. Mike Ford. Dummies to Keith Newton. And finally put down on the 25. John Fieldhouse. Sean Allen. That's, I think, his 5th tackle. Charlie McAllister. John Henderson. And this is 5th tackle. Panic flags are flying in Huddersfield defence. Oldham packed blind. John Cogger. And John Cogger's in. Referee Allott took his time there and gets a feeling he must have been held up short. Quick play of the ball. John Fieldhouse. Out to John Fairbank for the corner. And John Fairbank's in at the corner. Look for a moment as over the opposite. Leo Casey. Dummy to Leo Casey. Keith Atkinson. Keith Atkinson through. To Richard Irving. Richard Irving for the line. On a superb ball from Mike Ford back at halfway. Looked like he was going to give it Leo Casey. Then looked like he was going to give it Tope. Ford. Sean Allen stands up in the tackle, back to Ford. Clark. Foy. And he's in. I thought in half back. Probably just too far for him to make. Fieldhouse. Long pass. And that's a try. Go. To John Fieldhouse. Duncan Platt. Sean Allen fighting through traffic. Des Foy finds Richard Irving with a good pass. And Irving's in at the corner. Fine play from Oldham. Started by Mike Ford on to Des. Mike Ford to John Fieldhouse. On to Keith Atkinson. Keith, the only player on the Oldham team who hasn't scored this season. John Cogger. And Cogger's in. John Cogger in for his 19th try of the season. Let's slide. Gittins kicks. Gary Hyde. Links Richard Irving. Now, can he go? The cover's coming over, but he's in. Richard Irving's in for a try. Cross kick that went wrong from Charlie Burrow. Taken well by Gary Hyde. Hyde linked to Richard Irving, who went 3/4 of the length of the field. 13-14 minutes left to play, chance for more. Kicks off. Mike Ford sets off crossfield, looks for a runner. Dummy to Gary Hyde. Keith Atkinson to Richard Irving. Back to Mike Ford. Mike Ford attempting to get on the outside. Leo Casey. Casey taking a lot of dragging down, as he so often does in later stages. Not that he's easy early. John Fieldhouse, Mike Ford, Gary Hyde. Richard Irving takes the ball stationary. And he's still going. And he's in for his hat-trick. Richard Irving. Gary Hyde to Duncan Platt. Des Foy comes inside him. But Keith Newton takes a pass superbly one-handed. Steele on his whistle. Oldham come out with the ball. Leo Casey, an angled run, setting up position under the post, 10 yards out. Casey. John Fieldhouse going straight, keeping the ball alive to John Cogger. And Cogger's in again, his 20th try of the season. The inside ball off John Fieldhouse. Breaks himself. Dummies and opens up a superb gap. Ball onto Duncan Platt. Platt away from one. Platt for the corner. And Platt's in. In for his 5th try of the season. Initial break. The slightest a dummy pass from Russell. John Fieldhouse. Long ball to Brett Clark. To Des Foy in space. There's linked well to John Henderson. Fine pass from Des Foy. Puts John Henderson in for his first try since the opening game of the season. The half-time score 4-2 to Oldham. Russell with a tap to Ford. Clark to Newton. To John Henderson, and Henderson's in for his second try. Oh, so simple. Fifth tackle, Mike Ford himself at acting half-back. Brett Clark to Casey. Casey strides through an almighty gap. Then on to John Henderson, and that's a hat-trick for John Henderson. Statistics say more tries come on the first and last tackle. That was certainly a case of a last tackle try. Keith Atkinson stands and waits and gets the bounce he expects. Paul Lord. Lord with room to move in. Goes for the outside. Inside to Brett Clark, and Brett Clark's in. Fine play from Paul Lord. Keith Atkinson opening out from the kick. A long pass that Paul Lord had to check to take. Des Foy. Referee Smith goes for a close look. He's only inches short. Clark, Platt, Ford, Henderson, and that's John Henderson's 99th try of his career. For 6 for Oldham this season. So after 5 minutes, Oldham go into a 4-0 lead. Ian? Finally, Clark coming round Ford. Dummies to Heath Newton. Des Foy's in under the sticks. Fine play from Brett Clark. Dummy to Keith Newton. Oh, double Platt outside him. Brings Platt inside. Platt. Well tackled by Bridge. Quickly to his feet. Leo Casey spots something up the blind side. And certainly does. Leo Casey's in for a fine try. Culmination of a good move. Oldham scoring their third try after 27 minutes of his first half. Daunt, McCabe. There's a lack of route out there. And is this John Henderson's 100th try of his career? It is indeed. John Henderson, a loose pass from a Fulham player from Red McCabe. Knocked back by a Fulham hand. John Henderson first in embarking in place of Kieran Murphy. Keith Atkinson going a lot further than he looked to be going. Brett Clark to Des Foy. There's oceans of room here. Keith Newton's in himself. Newton in just before half time. Put Oldham into a 26-4 lead. Out. The referee just wipes it, because it certainly was knocked down. Hussein Mbarki's come yards from his right wing spot, and then they take the ball out towards his right wing. A rob. Keith Atkinson out to John Henderson, and this time he's in. John Henderson's hat-trick coming after 2 minutes of the second half, and Oldham stretching it. Oldham very quickly. Ball to Russell. To Henderson again. Henderson, good early ball to Paul Lord. And Lord for the corner. Cover coming in, back to Duncan Platt. Fine play by Paul Lord, and Platt's in under the post. And that gives Platt 153 points on the season. Fine break. Lord not back. Takes his time. Feeds Duncan Platt, who accelerates and steps so effortlessly away. Richard Russell, John Henderson, Gary Hyde. No, he's not noted as the fastest player in Oldham's books. And gets up in to the 25 before he's caught by Daunt. Kick from Mike Ford for John Henderson, and Henderson's in for his fourth try. 19 minutes gone. Oldham 42-4, stretching further away, and John Henderson makes it 9 tries for the season. Fieldhouse, Ford to Newton, and surely Newton's in. Indeed he is. Keith Newton's second try of the game. Fulham got player receiving treatment on the right wing, a player coming back on the left, and there are gaps all over, and Newton goes in by the left-hand post. Not a lot of tunnel for Mike Ford to aim at, so he puts it in his second row. And a genuine down the side, and Paul Lord's in. There's no doubt about it. Lord in and going for the post. What a superb pass from Mike Ford. Lord perhaps 2 inches from the touchline, and he'd gone. And that's Oldham's 52 points to 4 lead, and 2 minutes left to play.
Oh, that was skill at its greatest there. You'll see from the video there didn't look to be enough room for one man, never mind one man and a pass.
Cassidy falls in front to make sure he goes down. Leo Casey pushes Oldham players out the way to go on this run. And on! And Oldham are in for a try. Superb break from Leo Casey. And that surely will tie the game up for Oldham. I can't possibly see any way back for Salford. The try Oldham have threatened. Mike Ford kicks high. Gibson comes and spills it. And Brett Clark's in, and that surely is it. Oldham in disarray on last tackle. A kick hoisted. Gibson never going to get there. Hadn't got the aplomb of Platt to stand back and wait for it. It bounced forward. Well, certainly looked to be offside. Fine pass to Des Foy though from Brett Clark, and it's his centre who'd come up out of position. Brett Clark, Richard Russell, and Russell's in under the post. Fine attacking play. Brett Clark, Richard Russell, Brett Clark, Tommy Martin, long pass to Richard Irvine. Irvine pulled down with his nose on the line, quickly plays it. And Tommy Martin's in for his second try for the senior team. Quick thinking from acting halfback. I don't think Chorley have raised a serious threat of anything like a try. And Brett Clark intercepts with consummate ease and walks under the posts with 23 down a few yards short. Charlie McAllister, and he gets the ball down. Sean Allen lies injured as Charlie McAllister scores. Martin, Clark, inside to Leo Casey, and Leo Casey's in for a try. Nearly made heavy weather of that one. Leo Casey kicks for the corner. Martin waits, takes and avoids superbly. Inside to Cogger. And it's Cogger. Has he got the speed? Torpy only shadows him for the corner. And John Cogger, 43 minutes on the clock showing, goes in at the corner for his 21st try of the season and puts Chorley effectively down to 11 men. Brett Clark straightens superbly, and Clark's in again under the post, or just to the right of him. Set up initially the position by a superb drive and one-handed pass from tackle by Chorley scrum half Bimson on Atkinson. John Cogger, lot of Oldham players, very flat. Des Foy, ball goes loose, picked up by Richard Russell, and Richard Russell's in for a try. Des Foy, Martin gets the ball out majestically to Duncan Platt, and Brett Clark's in for his hat-trick. Fine pass with a lot of Chorley players around him from Tommy Martin. At about 2-3 yards short. Martin attacked in half back. Des Foy, Leo Casey all line up. Martin opts to go himself. Back to Richard Irvine, and Irvine's in.
For the try for Oldham's number 2, Richard Irvine.
28 Clark, Tommy Martin, lobbed pass to Des Foy. A superb quick pass from Des Foy. Give and take from Des Foy. Puts Paul Round in for his first try of the season. Brett Clark just unable to get to that one. Wood. And Desvoy's gone. And that's 64 points for Oldham today. 66 with the goal. We'll probably end up one short of the record score for Oldham. Quickly on with it through Ford. Clark. Keith Newton, men either side, picks out John Henderson, and Henderson's in under the post. So after 33 and a bit minutes played, Oldham come level with a try from John Henderson. Henderson. Oldham pressure mounting. Clark to Ford. Ford to Casey. Casey about 3-4 yards out. Quick play with the ball, Fieldhouse. And that's a try. In my eyesight, it's either Keith Newton or Sean Allen. Number 25. Neil Casey stands still and looks. Keith Atkinson. John Henderson. Henderson accelerates onto Cogger, and Cogger's in for his 22nd try of the season. Just as at the new Craven Park, the only try that night. And that's fifth tackle again. Richard Russell. Back to Tommy Martin. Martin kicks. And I'll lay odds he'll give him offside. He hasn't. That's a try to Paul Lord. Huddersfield protest. Referee looked to his touch judge for assistance. I think it was only assistance. Gary Hyde. John Fieldhouse picks up. Tommy Martin. There's obviously room out there. Early ball to Richard Irvine. Irvine away from Dickinson. Gibson. He's got Martin inside him, and this is a try for Tommy Martin. Fine play, Tommy Martin and Richard Irvine. Brings Tommy Martin through. Martin onto Andy Ruane. And Ruane's in under the post. He's been back on the first team just 2 minutes. He'll be all right in a minute or two. Sean Allen, fine running from Allen. And he checks, tries to come inside the scrum half. The fullback. And when Mike Ford opens it out like that, it's so easy as Tommy Martin strolls in for his fourth try of the season. Links to Cogger. Keith Atkinson throws out a one-handed pass to Paul Lord. And Lord's in at the corner and headed towards the post. Fine break from Tommy. Duncan Platt to Richard Irvine. Back to Platt. Oh, superb ball from Platt to Lord. And Lord's in at the corner. Irvine doing well to legged up a couple of yards short. As Keith Atkinson wanders off. Richard Irvine gets in. Mike Ford opts to run it. John Fieldhouse to Mike Ford. Ford accelerates. He's kicking for Paul Lord. And indeed, a fine.
Come on. That ball needs to be whizzed now. Forward. Casey. Casey under the post. Unstoppable from that sort of position. Well-timed pass from Mick Ford. Simon Wilson to restart the game. To Keith Newton. Safely picked up. Down on the charge. Casey again. Oldham seem to be
Lucky there, Oldham. Field house to Cogger. Ball going down. Referee said it went backwards. Good break from Russell. Good break. Quick play of the ball. Forward. Chipping forward. Clark's chasing it. Sharks looking favourite. Yes, that's a try. Full back into the line. Quick thinking from Ford and Clark. The chip on. Clark chasing. No problem. Wilson to kick. He's not going to get very far. Good pick up from Lord. Lord straight through, and he's going to go straight through. They're not going to catch him. What a good try from Paul Lord. Superb pick up. Back in half. There shouldn't be much. Clark picks the ball up and brings it away. Running it out to Henderson. Henderson. It's going to be a long run. He should make it. Waits coming across onto Lord. And Lord touches down. Superb try from Oldham.
By for Runcorn, second row. Mike Ford changing it. Field out. And a stroll in for Sean Allen. Interesting angle line. Ball coming, Clark, Ford. Short ball to Casey. And Casey surely in. And Mike Ford. Cogger picks up to Ford. Ford to Henderson. Paul Lord. And Lord's in for his 22nd try of the season, which brings him level with John. Keith Newton shrugs off one. Tony Anderson trying to get with him. Newton just hangs onto the ball in the tackle. It's a bit painfully. John Fieldhouse. Tony Anderson, and he gives Richard Irving a walk in at the corner. Keith Newton not looking. Richard Russell brings Leo Casey inside him. John Fieldhouse to Richard Russell. Russell to John Cogger. Well, is Cogger in? He is indeed. He's in for his 23rd try of the season, and one that'll mean a lot to him. Keith Atkinson still chasing the try. His first of the season. Leo Casey up the short side. They'll do well to stop Leo then. They have done. No, they haven't. I thought it was more serious than Leo did. Mike Ford to Keith Atkinson. On to Tony Anderson. Anderson. And Anderson's in for a debut try. Richard Russell, Leo Casey left. Nursing injuries in their own match. How it could be played. John Cogger. Cogger for the line, and he's in. Oldham attempt to take one against the head, but under the present day setups. And Brett Clark's in, stole another one on the interception. If you make a move as obvious as that one, another winger coming, the odds are Brett Clark will be there to intercept, which he has done yet again, says referee. Long ball to Paul Lord. Lord will run this winger. We've had a lot of cover coming in. Leo Casey picks up. Finds Sean Allen. Allen for the corner. And he's in. What a fine try that one was. Paul Lord. Clark. Fieldhouse. Picked up by Keith Atkinson. Gary Hyde. I don't think he'll get that one down. I'm very good at picking the wrong option at the moment. Gary Hyde. John Fieldhouse. Richard Russell. Duncan Platt. Paul round through his legs. John Fairbank to Charlie McAllister, who speeds up. Gives Paul Lord a yard or two down the touchline. And Lord's in. Fine try for Oldham. Duncan Platt. John Henderson. Ball going across the line. Andy Ruane straightens it. Dummies one. Dummies two, and Ruane's in. Nearly played it. Charlie McAllister winds up. John Henderson. Henderson. And that's a try. Route for a quick ball. Goes up the short side. Andy Ruane's superb one-hander to Charlie McAllister. McAllister. And McAllister's in at the corner. Something like a triangle gone wrong. Richard Russell's much on his own here, linking to Duncan Platt. And surely Platt's. Indeed he is. Andy Ruane dummies his way into said gap. And then finds John Fieldhouse. And John Fieldhouse Russell thinks what might have been. Duncan Platt. Paul around onto Charlie McAllister. And Paul Lord, badly or not, he's in for his second try of the night. Under the post. And his 24th try of the season. Ruane from acting half-back. Russell. Ball backwards, picked up by Andy Ruane. And amazingly, Ruane gets into the corner. How he kept his feet off the touchline is amazing. I mean, the referee looks at the touch judge with equal amazement. It's taken by prop. Alan Boothroyd. Keith Atkinson. Atkinson to Steve Robinson, and Robbie's in the corner to tie the scores at 10-all. Adiola drags him down. John Fairbank going to try and wind over. And he has done. He'll quick play the ball. Neil Flanagan. Charlie McAllister, early ball to Richard Irvine. Irvine winds up. And Irvine gets there. And that stripped out. But it's back in Oldham hands again. Ford. Long ball to Richard Irvine. And Irvine's in the corner. 10 minutes gone of his second half. Leo Casey thrust for the line. The ball ripped out. And I think it was Keith Newton dived on it. Tackle.
This way.
Come on, quickly.
The timekeepers are probably discussing. It's Keith Atkinson for the line. And he's in right on the hooter. Keith Atkinson scored his first try of the season. He said to me coming up on the bus, "Don't say I'm the only one not to have scored a try this season." Well, he's not anymore. The hooter's John Fairbank for the line. And he's in. Such a simple penalty move when it comes. Said he removed his cap. Keith Newton into the 25 on fourth tackle. Short side Charlie McAllister. Through one or two. And McAllister for the line. I know, well and truly over it. A slow wind up from Big Charlie. About Andy Ruane, Brett Clark. Long ball to Richard Russell. Steps out to one. Keeps the ball alive with Keith Atkinson. And Keith goes straight for the line. Pull down on fifth. Brett Clark. And that's a walk in for John Henderson. Flight the ball quickly, please, which he does. John Fairbank goes right. If it had gone left, I think he might have walked under untouched. Keith Atkinson, and Atkinson's in. Thanks to a fine tackle from Andy Ruane on fullback Vickers. Quick play of the ball. Spin arms. Up the short side. Andy Ruane. Got Henderson in his inside. Lord on his outside. And he picks Lord out, and that's Lord's 25th try of the season. Fairbank. Brett Clark. Ball round. Interesting. John Fairbank's left on the floor again after it. Charlie McAllister steps out to one. On to Richard Irvine, and Irvine's in at the corner. Fine flop. Ball round. Through one. On to Richard Irvine, and Irvine down the centre. Just caught 6-7 yards out. Allen attacked in half back to Clark. Clark dummies and gets there himself. What a Carlisle Mensel coming back to Allen. To Newton down the middle. Got Henderson on his left. Got Clark on his right. Clark still going. Still going. And that's another try for Brett Clark. Ruane. Hoist for the right hand side. And John Henderson takes well. After fullbacks, Vickers had made. Then flicks one up for Richard Irving. Irving trying to turn Vickers. Lose a bit of seed, caught by Pape. Ball round. Neil Flanagan. And Flanagan's in. Andy Ruane. Charlie McAllister. McAllister pushes a winger off into Des Foy. And Des Foy's in. McAllister's strength. Bouncing Ranson off. Inches short. Win time added on for injuries. Ruane attacked in half back to Foy. Leo Casey. And Casey's in. On something resembling a double run round. And Charlie McAllister on the straight ball. Straight through one onto Duncan Platt. What a fine move, and Platt's in. Fine thrust down the centre from Charlie McAllister after the double run round and the straight ball. Pushed off one. More in luck than good management, that one. Last tackle coming up. Mike Foyd hoists, and referee says everybody's onside. And it's a try. Try to pull round. Play again from Oldham, and a Hornets player left. Not looking too cheerful on the floor. Pull round, kicking for himself. And that's his second try. Round his back. Dummies inside to Platt, attempts to go himself. And then finally gives it Platt. Platt over halfway. Kicks for John Henderson. And then laid out on a late tackle. And Henderson's in for a try, but Duncan Platt's not in good condition. And Clark going forward. That's John Henderson in at the corner. Half back. Forward for the trying to commit. And John Fieldhouse is surely in. Fine play yet again from Michael Ford. Manufacturing the position for John Fieldhouse. I think even I could have scored that one.
Super.
Michael Ford chips for Brett Clark. And it sits up for him. He kicks back to the touchline. That's John Henderson in again. Fine use of the boot on two occasions in one move. Putting Oldham 2 tries in a minute. Duncan Platt, however, skips through a gap onto Charlie McAllister, to Michael Ford. What a fine try from Michael Ford, in under the post. Fine break.
That's it.
McAllister out to Tommy Martin. Martin comes in field and then heads for the post. Tommy Martin keeping his high level of scoring up after 26 minutes of his second half, puts Oldham past the 30-point mark. With his first touch, links back to Ruane. Charlie McAllister, early ball to John Henderson. Henderson to Paul Lord, and Lord's in. Fine try from Oldham. That's brought so many. So this move's brought so many tries. And Paul Lord off a superb ball round pass. Ford from acting half-back as well. Andrew Wayne, Charlie McAllister, Tommy Martin. Martin kicks for the corner, Andor himself. And Richard Irving's in for the try. Casual line. Brett Clark. Duncan Platt with a lot of room. Change of direction to Tommy Martin. Inside, outside. Richard Irving picks up. And Richard Irving's in for his second try. Chips. Tommy Martin and Mike Ford. Ford throws out a long pass to a waiting John Henderson. Henderson to Brett Clark. And Clark's in at the corner. Fine kick from Michael Ford. Tommy Irving. Irving still go. Michael Ford there for the second play of the ball. John Fieldhouse. Paul Lord. And Lord's in for his hat-trick. Fine. Given to Round. Round still going. A yard short as Rudd gets back in front of him. Brett Clark. And Paul Lord's in. Paul Lord in for his 29th try of the season. Clark again. Ford winds up. Pull round backwards and Keith Newton in loose ground. I think surprised to get through there was Newton. Referee says it came off his boot. Michael Ford dummies. And Mike Ford's in for a try. Only by Thompson. Mike Ford spots something short side and comes back onto John Fieldhouse. To John Henderson, and Henderson just ankle tapped and gets there. Looked like John Henderson was going to stride in. Ford. Brett Clark with room to move in. Comes inside Lyman. Away from Fletcher. Back to Tommy Martin. And Martin out to Irving, and Irving's into the corner. That's fifth tackle as he's taken down by Emma. Twice. And Ruane's in. Ruane's in. Ruane with a half dummy makes for line, and that's all that matters. John Fieldhouse. Dummies. And he's taken by Rudd. And by Lyman. Oldham still 3 points down as Paul Round. Charlie McAllister lurking at left centre. The ball comes out very deep. Brett Clark puts Keith Newton out. Ball back to Brett Clark. Superb pass to John Henderson. Paul Lord. Lord stays in play and back to Henderson. And Henderson stopped a foot short with a tackle from Jimmy Irving. Paul Lord from acting half-back. Spotted a gap, only one boot on, but just failed. This is fifth tackle. Mike Ford, Charlie McAllister, Gary Hyde, Tommy Martin waits. This is last tackle, and Tommy Martin's in! And Oldham are in front! 8 minutes left to play, and yet again a try on last tackle. Hi, Richard Russell. 41 minutes up on my watch. Parker coming back to the short side. And there's a hooter. Oldham have won. What must surely be the greatest comeback in a cup game of any description. Back after 6 minutes of the first half. 1 minute of the first half. 29 points to 8 down. To come back to win 30 points to 29. Scoring 5 tries and only 1 goal without reply in this incredible second half. As Oldham triumph by 30 points to 29. And Tommy Martin, the young precocious star of the future, scored the winner with just 8 minutes left, and then hearts were in mouths. Hull KR, I think, just don't believe what's happened, and I'm inclined to agree with them. Oldham coming back with 22 points without reply.
Call you, need you, my heart's on fire. Come to me, why, why?
positions played, the change in the area. Charlie McAllister, 4 round, the second rule the last few weeks. Brett Clark, and finally